So I'm outside today because I want to talk about outsiders, people who are outsiders and the insights they bring. And I want to think about that because at this time of the year we think a lot about John the Baptist, and he is, if you like, the church's ultimate outsider. We hear about him wearing these really weird clothes and coming across as a kind of wild man eating locusts and honey, and what we find out in the Gospels is, he didn't hang around in towns or go to the temple like other people. They had to go to him, relatively speaking, the outside, and they ended up at the River Jordan. But it's all about a message that resonates as an outsider. So what is it about outsiders that is important? Because I think probably John the Baptist's message wouldn't have resonated if he came from a conventional background. And I'd like to share with you the story of someone from a previous parish who I feel was a good example of a real outside. I suppose a little bit of me gets reminded of him when I read about John the Baptist. And I'll change his name. I'll call him Chris. And Chris was, he came to our church, and he was actually one of the people that welcome us. He would welcome people, giving hymn books out at the start of a service, and he believe it or not, he was just on the welcoming rota. Chris also, he wore very little. So it started off when he'd just be sort of wearing a t-shirt and shorts to services to give things out, and he kind of gave up on shoes. And then it got a bit difficult when he decided he didn't need the t-shirt either. So we had this guy welcoming just in a pair of shorts, and I think he was quite proud of his body because he's a very fit person. So, but we kind of felt it wasn't quite appropriate. So I was delegated to visit him to explain this, that we loved what he was doing. And I mean, on the one hand, by the way, this is a sad story because we get into a sort of cycle of that genuine mental illness, completely separately from anything in church. He was sectioned. He had various kind of hallucinations, if you like, which are largely attributable. He smoked far too much weed. That was his thing. But when I got to his house, one of the amazing things about this house is it's flat. Very, very little stuff in it. And I was looking around and I think, oh God, this guy doesn't have any possessions. And he said, no, I don't need much stuff. And then he said, but other people, they have so much stuff. Why do they have all this stuff? He said, take shoes. It's like everyone's become Imelda Marcos or something. And to get the Imelda Marcos reference, you have to be a sort of certain age, which maybe it's intuitive to you, but I'll explain a bit. Imelda Marcos was the wife of a dictator in the Philippines, and when this dictatorship fell and they kind of found this house, they found kind of wardrobes of shoes. So many shoes she couldn't possibly have worn. And so she became a sort of icon for extreme possessions and shoes. Then I was talking to Chris, and he just said, I go to people's places, and it's like everyone's Imelda Marcos or something. And I listened to him, and I thought, gosh, yeah, people have got a lot of shoes. He had one pair of shoes, because he only needed one pair of shoes. Why do we need so many shoes? And it may not be shoes, it may be other things in your things. It may be kind of books. People just line their shelves with hundreds of books that they haven't read in 20 years, but it's like a sort of trophy. Well, I've read this book, so I'm going to keep it on a shelf. And you can keep it there if you want. But his critique, I thought, hit home, basically. And it hit home, A, because he'd seen it, and it takes sort of an outsider to see society for what it's like, and B, because he was authentically living a different way. And I think that's what was the case with John the Baptist, because if you think about it, his message is so unlikely to be attractive. He slags people off. He tells them they're a brood of vipers. He tells them to repent of their sins. He sends such a tough message. But people went out, they left Jerusalem, their mainstream lives, to go out to listen to him, because something about it was so authentic and really hit home. And that, I think, is the gift of the outsider. The outsider can present back to us, who are often in the mainstream society, aspects of ourselves which are true but which we haven't really noticed. And they can challenge us. As long as it's authentic, they can challenge us, and it's incredibly valuable.